Happy New Year's, travelers, and welcome back to the Enchanted Forest. I hope you've all had a lovely holiday season and are as eager as we are for another exciting year full of new and old stories alike. This week, Fox is out in the winter wonderland, searching high and low for new tales to share. And you know what they say, when the fox away, Sparrow hijacks the podcast and explores her own tale. But don't worry, Fox will be back in a fortnight with her very own tale to tell. And in a month, we will both be back together once more to resume our regular episodes. But solo or not, it is still my job to bring old new tales for you, and that is just what I have done today. This week's Icelandic story comes to us from the Crimson Fairy Book, which is a collection of fairy tales stories from around the world collected by Nora and Andrew Lang. Now, it's worth noting that while Lang's fairy tale collection books are popular and contain a wide variety of stories, not all of them are properly sourced, if at all. Additionally, there are stories from all over the world, yet they were translated and adapted by this couple from the British Isles. So there's always a chance there could be translation errors or things straight up changed for their audiences. And sadly, I was unable to find a secondary source for today's tale, so we are really placing our trust in the Langs today. Nevertheless, this is still a charming little story and a perfect way to start the new year right. So, with all of that preamble out of the way, it's time to curl up next to a warm fireplace, catch ourselves a mouse, as I tell the tale of the Cottager and his cat. Once upon a time, there was an older couple living in a dirty, rundown cottage on the outside of town. Despite the sorry state of the cottage, which locals would say was even fit for a pig to live in, the old man that lived there was actually quite wealthy. You see, he went to great lengths to hoard his wealth, and would rather starve himself than part with any of his precious coin. Seriously, this guy could compete with Scrooge McDuck for his greedy, money-obsessed nature. Eventually, he starved himself one too many times and became very sick before passing away. The night following the old man's passing, his son had an unnerving dream. In the dream, a man approached him and said, "Listen here, your father is dead and your mother will soon pass as well, at which point their riches will become yours. Half of your father's riches was ill-gotten, and this must be returned to the poor from whom it was once taken from. The other half must be thrown into the sea, but watch as the money sinks. If anything is able to swim, catch it and you may keep it, even if it's a single piece of paper." Personally, I get the returning half the money to the poor and all of that, but why throw the other half into the sea? Like, surely he could donate the rest to charity rather than throwing it away entirely. Regardless, this dream shook the youth, and he contemplated of what he should do next. On one hand, he had lived a hard life, with his father's hardcore cheap lifestyle, and was very much looking forward to using the coin to bring some comfort to his mother and himself. However, despite growing up with such a greedy father, the youth was honest and good-hearted, so he didn't think he could enjoy the wealth if his father had indeed gotten it wrongfully. So the next day, he went and found the poorest in town and gave half of his wealth to them. After that, he went atop a rock jutting out next to the sea and threw the remaining half of the coins into the water. Just as quickly as he threw it, the coins vanished into the water, where no man could find them, except for a single scrap of paper that floated on the water. The youth carefully picked it up and found it had 6 shillings wrapped in it. He thoughtfully looked down at the 6 coins that now made up the entirety of his wealth, and thought that this was better than nothing at all. And apparently his mother was just fine with this, for we never hear her reaction to her son literally throwing away his inheritance. Either way, they both agreed to live off of the food that they could grow from the garden. But after a few weeks of the young man working the garden, the mother suddenly died. The grief-stricken youth made a grave for his mother before blindly wandering the forest with his heavy heart. Eventually, he came across a small hut in the woods. Feeling quite hungry, he knocked on the door and asked them if he could have some milk to drink. The old woman who answered the door invited him for dinner and offered him a place to sleep at no charge. Grateful for the offer, the young man accepts and enters to find 2 women and 3 men already at the table. Now, the story never specifies the relation these individuals have with each other, so they likely could just be one family, but in my headcanon, it's that this lady's home is like the room of requirement, And all these people are on similar quests of self-discovery, but all need just a safe place to be that night. So these are all like protagonists of their own story that just happened to cross paths this one night, and I kind of love it. But while they were eating, the young man was surprised to see an unfamiliar beast sitting next to the fire. It had a bluish-gray coat, and it wasn't very big. But what caught his attention was the creature's big, bright eyes and the peculiar singing sound it made. He quickly asked his dinner companions what they called the creature, and they told him it was a cat. He asked if he could buy the cat so that he may have company on his journey. He then took out the paper with the 6 shillings and offered it in exchange for the cat. They agreed to this, and so the next morning he set off with the cat cuddled in his cloak. Honestly, this is probably how I would spend the last of my money too, so I can completely relate to this. I'm actually just more surprised the cat went with him. If it were my cat, it would have just ignored him and stayed in the warm, cozy house, but either way, this guy might have his own magical powers to get the cat to stay with him. I'm just impressed, but good for him. After making the best purchase of his life, the young man continued to wander idyllic forests and meadows before night fell once more, and he had to knock on another house and ask for a place to stay. The old man who lived at this current abode agreed to let him stay the night. The old man's family were curious about the youth's cat, as they had never seen one before either, but they quickly became enamored by it, and the woman gave the cat lots to eat. Hearing the youth's tale of woe, the old man encouraged him to speak with the king and get his counsel of what he should do next. Because apparently this king was one of those nice kings that actually listens and cares for his subjects. And conveniently, the palace was not too far from here. Following the advice of the old man, the youth sent a message to the king requesting an audience, to which the king quickly replied that he can come and meet with him in his great hall. I find nice kings so enjoyable in these stories, because there are just so many terrible ones out there that it makes the story and the challenges just so difficult. But this one's just kind of adorable with the quick reply. He almost sounds like he's bored and is just excited that someone's coming to visit him. I don't know, this is kind of the king you would want if you had a king. It's just like, yeah, they're there, they're available, and they're gonna help you out. So the youth travels to the palace and arrives around the time when the king is having dinner with the court. As the youth approached, he bowed his head, but was surprised to see a group of small black creatures crawling along the ground. They were even on the tables, snatching food off of people's plates. The king tried to swat one such creature away from his plate, but the animal bit hard on his hand and continued eating the food. "What are these creatures?" a young girl asked. "They are rats," the king answered. "We have tried for years to get rid of them, but nothing seems to work." Suddenly, something went flying through the air, and with a slash, 2 rats fell. The cat was having a field day, and in no time at all, the cat had cleared the great hall, leaving bodies of dead rats everywhere. Everyone was astonished, and the king asked what creature was this that could wield such magic. The young man told the king that it was a cat, and he had bought it for 6 shillings. Don't know why he felt the need to brag about how much of a sweet deal he got on the cat. Maybe that's a bit of his cheap father kind of coming through. What a bargain, I saved the day for only 6 shillings, but it was my life savings, so, you know. Grateful, the king looked to the youth and said that because he brought such luck, i.e., the cat drove away the rats, so maybe you should be thanking the cat for the luck, but I digress. The youth could either become the king's prime minister, or he could marry the king's daughter and inherit the kingdom when he passed. Tough choices, I know. Without missing a beat, the young man picked the princess in the kingdom, and that brings our story to a close, proving cats are just the best. They will solve your local king's pest problem, and you'll get to marry the princess because of it. And this will definitely help you when dealing with the trauma of losing your parents. So yeah, that's the story of the cottager and the cat. This is one of those nonsensical fairy tales which doesn't have any clear morals or character development. It's just a series of weird events that happen, which is its own kind of entertaining, but doesn't leave much to analyze except to restate the obvious that cats are just awesome. So yeah, that's it for this week. Be sure to check in with us on Mastodon or Twitter at FromEnchanted, where we are always posting about these crazy fun stories we find. You can also find our show notes on our website at talesfromtheenchantedforest.com. Until next time, travelers, remember, there's always a place for you in the Enchanted Forest.